So the other night, I'm putting my kids to bed, and my oldest asked me if I can read him a bedtime story. I say, yeah. I just picked up this one from the Dollar Tree. It's Sesame Street. Cool. So there we are, fumbling through the pages, and one, two, threes, ABCs, what have you. And we get to the last page, and there's this creature on that page that terrifies my kid. Dad, what's that? I look at him, and it's this guy right here. I tell him, hey, that's the Snuffleupagus. I don't like him, Dad. Can you put that away? So I'm thinking, what? He's a friendly guy. He's a fluffy little puppet. What's going on here? Nah, don't be scared. He's Big Bird's friend. Except I think only Big Bird can see him. I don't remember. And I'm just making things worse. Only Big Bird can see him? What if I see him? What if he comes into the room? I'm thinking, that's funny to me, right? I'm kind of a dad of the year. So now he's telling me, Dad, I'm gonna have nightmares. I'm really scared. What if he comes for me? And I, being an empathetic and loving father, just tell him, no, you're not. Good night. Turn off the light switch, tell him I love him, close the door. I leave this kid to fight his own battles, and I start my nighttime routine. Well, after the shower, after everything's out of the way, I'm getting ready for bed. I'm turning off the light in the living room, and that's when I can sense him. He's there. I can feel the hairs stand up on my neck because he came for me. He transcended dimensions to torment me and possibly eat me or my eternal soul. I don't know. The second I can sense it, I'm out of there. I'm booking it. So I'm making this mad dash from the living room, and that's when I stub my toe. And in the process, knock over a coffee mug, break it. So yeah, all of a sudden it wasn't so funny, right? This dude was scary. I mean, look at him. Not scary? Look at him again. Yeah, they had to take that off the air because parents were calling PBS going, take that down. What are you doing scaring my kid like that? So the next day, I'm looking at my coffee in a different mug. I'm no longer sheltered under my blankets. And I'm thinking, I'm 30 years old. Why did my brain do that? I mean, I can understand fear of heights, that makes sense. Fear of loud noises, I get it. Fear of darkness even. But this was just a fluffy puppet. There's no such thing as the Snuffleupagus. Well, there's no such thing as the demonic entity known as the Snuffleupagus, right? This was just a puppet. And so, it just feels like fight or flight. And it doesn't matter how silly it was. I mean, I think my brain would rather be wrong than be dead, you know? And I keep thinking, what is it about this puppet that is so freaky to me? I think it's those big listless eyes, those lashes, just... It's uncanny. In fact, I'm not the first person or the last person to talk about this, but there's this phenomenon known as the uncanny valley, where something looks almost human. Old CGI is a prime example of this, but even some of the new stuff like AI generated things, if it gets close enough to looking human but not quite there, your brain rejects that. It freaks it out, right? I think I've heard him say that there's an evolutionary reason for this. It could have been a survival instinct. You know, Homo sapiens or humanity as we know it today, or maybe like, I think 40,000 years ago or something like that, they used to walk amongst other human species like Neanderthals and Denisovans, I think they were called. And there are experts that suggest that this fear or this wariness of these other human species may have protected us from things like disease or even conflict. So yeah, if like Oog or Gronk or whatever approached a group of humans and saw something was off and his hair like stands behind his neck, maybe he could have gone another way and then gone to live another day, right? And there are educated individuals that suggest this could be the case, but there's a lot of debate. We don't really know if that's the reason why we feel this phenomenon, the uncanny valley. This is an instinct that makes sense for me to be able to tell when something's off, because there are animals that naturally camouflage. Like the Arctic fox, for example, it blends in with its surroundings, the snow. It's difficult for predators to find it. There are certain types of octopus or octopi, octopians, octopuses. There are certain types of octopuses that blend in with their surroundings as well. And while this can be a defensive mechanism, there is a more predatory component to this in the animal kingdom sometimes. In fact, a lot of the time, that camouflage becomes mimicry. There are certain types of spiders that pretend to be ants. Like, they look very similar to them. They even release similar pheromones. And they do this to infiltrate a colony and then prey on it, you know? And all the while, the ants are just like, oh, hey, what's going on? Steve? Do I know you? Do we know that guy? Hey. So, yeah, that's certainly a predatory component. And that's certainly something that a living thing might want to protect themselves from, right? So, an instinct to notice something awry or something off can be rewarding, just like nature rewards creatures that can pretend to be other things. It's a vicious cycle, you know, it's a vicious cycle. Um, so yeah, if maybe this is the reason we have that instinct, then why do we still have it? All the other human species are gone. And you might say this is a vestigial behavior, you know, it's outlived its purpose, it's still there, kind of obsolete in a way. But if that was the case, why is it still so intense? Maybe I just don't understand the science behind that. Maybe it's because it's linked to fear. I mean, all of this makes sense to me. Because, again, when you're scared, you don't have time to see if something's true. You have time to think about what's possible and how to protect yourself from it, right? The fear justifies the action. Then afterwards you can think, damn, I really slammed my pinky toe right into my coffee table, didn't I? And running from what? There was no basis in reality for me to have that fear, but you know, my brain didn't care. In that moment, its job was to protect me. And so it created the context. Our brains are really good at creating context when there is none. And so this wasn't actually the Snuffleupagus puppet. This was an entity, an evil interdimensional predator like Pennywise or Mary Poppins. It was going to feed on my soul or my flesh, and it just needed me to believe in it. And it was going to use the power of my fear to conjure itself into this physical plane. And the more I thought of that, the faster I ran, right? And this isn't something that I sat down there and pondered. This was a split-second decision. Once your brain decides something is off, it builds a story. It doesn't have to be good. It just has to be a story. And you know, we love stories. As human beings, we've always loved stories. And when it comes to this particular concept, I've heard a lot of stories, and I've also thought up a few. Like, did something survive from that time? Is there something walking amongst us now? Something pretending to be human, but not quite being it? Something that stalks the night, waiting for some poor soul to come up and then snatches them up. Maybe that's where the vampire myth comes from. But what proof do I have? To be honest, I don't. Although sometimes I do try to find some. For example, I turn to convergent evolution for this when I'm thinking about it. I'm not really an expert on it, but basically it's when things evolve in a very similar way, despite coming from a very different type of animal or living organism. An example of that is whales. People think sometimes that whales are fish. That's not the case. They are mammals, and they evolved from a creature known as a Pachycetus, I think, which was like a cross between a hippo and a dog of some sort. It was this land mammal that went into the sea. But because of the environment, whales now look like huge fish. The same for dolphins. They are also mammals. I think they came from the same creature and branched off somewhere along the line. I'm not sure about that. You can feel free to disprove that in the comments there. But yeah, I think they came from the same place. And again, they evolve in a similar manner. Another example of this is carcinization, and that's nature's tendency to create crabs. There are all sorts of creatures that have ended up evolving into the same crab shape that did not come from the same original organism. So yeah, it's happened so often that if I had a nickel for every time it's happened, I'd have like at least 5 nickels. Still pretty weird, right? So again, that's when I think, if things can evolve in a similar way, Could things look like us? Could they have a similar form to us? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. When I'm watching something like Star Trek or Star Wars and I see so many bipedal humanoid aliens, I really suspend disbelief. That does not seem like the optimal form, you know? This would be the optimal form. Yeah, so if some hateful organism snuck into my house with purposes to destroy me and eat my flesh, it would probably look like a coconut crab and less like a man. Although, man is terrifying. Wait, we're the only species of man left. Were we the vampires? Anyway, life is already horrifying. The living organisms, whether they're men, crabs, interdimensional children's puppets with cognito hazards, there's plenty to fear. And these same things that keep us alive sometimes can also lead us to fear the wrong things. It's important that we understand our fear, that we recognize it, that we don't let ourselves be controlled by it. And if we can do this and keep ourselves calm and collected, aware of the situation at hand, we can avoid destroying anything or harming anyone. So, next time you find yourself turning off the lights and sprinting to your bed because you feel something's watching you, keep that in mind. You know what? Scratch that. Say a prayer and run to the bed. Just in case. It doesn't hurt.